Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Triple N Talk Show. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM. Sorry about that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Triple N Talk Show. I'm Dr. NIK NIKAM. We are delighted you could join us. Today, we are going to be talking about Obamacare, pros and cons, myths and abuses. Let's talk about Obamacare. You remember the days when Obama was promoting his national healthcare agenda? You can keep your doctor if you like. You can keep your insurance plan if you like. But today, that is not true. The only thing that is good about Obamacare is the pre-existing condition no longer applies. But besides that, everything else that is related to Obamacare has problems. It is riddled with a lot of issues. And let's talk one by one. First of all, Obamacare is supposed to be helping people get affordable healthcare coverage. But in reality, the Obamacare doesn't serve that particular purpose. Let me explain to you why. Obamacare insurance has moderately high premiums. Number two, most of these insurance premiums, along with the coverage, which has $3,000 to $6,000 deductible. That means if you go to see a doctor, the first $3,000 to $6,000 of your initial healthcare expense has to come out of your pocket. Let me repeat this again. If you decide to go and see a doctor because you got this Obamacare insurance, your first $3,000 to $6,000, it may be $1,500 in some cases, but nonetheless, the first $1,500 to $6,000 you have to pay from your pocket before the insurance kicks in. But when you add all these costs together, the $3,000 to $6,000 deductible, and then your insurance premium, which can run anywhere from $400 to $500 per month, plus your 20%, 30% copay for every visit or every procedure you have. Your cost of healthcare could very well run into $10,000 or $15,000 a year. So for the most people, or majority of the people who are looking for basic healthcare coverage, you basically have no basic healthcare coverage, but you are continuing to pay in excess of $10,000 per year in premiums, deductibles, co-pays, and office visit pays. So that is a fact because I'm a doctor. I've been practicing for 30 years. I have seen all kinds of insurance policies come and go. We had HMOs, we have PPOs, we have point of service, we have fee for service, and I have seen every one of them. And among those, Obamacare is a biggest burden for those people who get this insurance. Point number two, majority of the hospitals are not taking the Obamacare insurance. That means your choice of hospitals, your choice of doctors becomes diminished. You may not be able to see the best doctor. You may not be able to get to the best medical facility in your town, even though you are paying premium and even though you are making your monthly insurance payments. You do not have a choice because it is determined by the insurance company and it is determined by the providers. Most importantly, the hospitals, which can flatly refuse taking care of you. And similarly, many doctors don't want to accept these type of insurances because of the problems which I already talked to you about, high deductibles and multitude of issues related to this health insurance problems. And another important point I would like to bring is that a lot of these insurance companies require authorization for every type of visit, test, or lab studies. As a result, the doctor's offices will end up spending hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to get these authorizations to perform a test or to examine a patient or order a laboratory studies or an x-ray. As a result, the medical profession is fed up with these kind of limitations, which really are counterproductive to the practice of medicine, and hence majority of the specialists try to shy away from this Obamacare because it doesn't pay to see these patients. And as I said, the first $5,000 to $6,000 had to come from the pocket. And if you don't collect that money upfront, I can guarantee you those patients are never going to pay you for the services that you as a doctor receive. So here, these are some of the things. And when the Obamacare started, we had two different kinds of insurances. One known as the PPO, or the Preferred Provider Organization form. The other one is known as the HMO, that is Health Maintenance Organization. But majority of the insurance companies are getting away from the PPO. The PPO gives the flexibility for the patients to choose whatever hospital they want to go to, or choose whatever doctor they want to see. But by eliminating this PPO, the insurance companies, by using the HMO, the Health Maintenance Organization format, can control the healthcare services that are delivered to the patients in a much more stringent manner. For example, if I have to see a patient and do an ultrasound or an echocardiogram, I will have to get first an authorization from the primary doctor to see the patient. And then for every subsequent study I want to do, like an echocardiogram, a carotid duplex, or a nuclear stress test, every one of these studies, we need to get separate authorization. And it takes at least 2 to 3 hours to get an authorization. As a result, sometimes we have to turn down these patients because we just don't have the resources and the staff to sit and get authorizations for a test for which they are giving you pennies. Sometimes it may cost you more to do a test than what you're getting by doing these tests. That's just one part of the story. And when we submit these claim forms, there is a tremendous roadblock put before we can ever get paid. Even after getting authorization and sending claim forms, there may be a problem getting paid. And when you try to call someone on the insurance company, it is going to some third world country where they don't know what we are talking about, and it may take hours to even get the message across. And finally, they say, even if every information on the claim form is correct, they'll say, okay, you can appeal it. That means you're never going to get paid. So there are a lot of limitations. These limitations are not only related to Obamacare, it applies to every kind of private insurance we have in this country besides Obamacare. So I'm not just speaking on Obamacare, I'm talking about the insurance industry in general. They are trying everything possible to delay the payment, or in many cases, not pay at all for absolutely silly reasons whatsoever. And let's talk about the effect of Obamacare on employers. Because the employers are forced to buy health insurance for their employees, majority of the employers are shifting their labor force into contract labor or having people work less hours so they don't need to be covered by this mandatory type of insurance, or not cover them at all. As a result, I think the burden is going to be on the individuals to buy this type of health insurance. And I already talked about the big copays, the deductibles, and the limitations of doctors and hospitals, and their choices getting smaller and smaller. All right, let's talk about some of the insurance company concerns. Majority of the insurance companies claim that they don't make any profit from the Obamacare. As a matter of fact, one of the insurance companies reported $1 billion loss last year from the so-called Obamacare. That's one of the reasons majority of the insurance companies are getting out of the so-called PPO, or the Preferred Provider Organization model, where they have to pay more money to the doctors, more money to the hospitals, and give choices for both the patients, doctors, and the hospitals, which cuts into their profit. As far as the hospitals are concerned, they are caught in a dilemma of these high deductibles and also limitations. That's why some of the major hospitals in Houston have made a decision not to accept Obamacare patients unless in situations where they come through the emergency room, when they are going to get care just like any other person, whether they have insurance or not. And here are some of the abuses of Obamacare. Let's say you find out you have a heart condition. You don't have health insurance. You have no previous medical history. You just go to a family doctor. They do a certain basic test for which you pay cash. They find out you have a heart problem. And worst yet, you may need cardiac catheterization and perhaps maybe cardiac surgery. What do? You go and buy out a health insurance. And by law, these insurance companies are supposed to provide you the insurance. So you go out and buy a health insurance. 2 months later, you have the cardiac procedure, be it cardiac catheterization, placement of stent, or even bypass surgery. Then you make your payments for 3 to 4 months or 2 months, and when your condition is stabilized, you drop the insurance. Nobody can put them in jail for doing that. So there are people who can abuse this type of system, because there is no tracking of people who abuse the system. Because if they come back again a year later because they need a similar kind of health coverage, they can go to a different insurance company and they can get an insurance because they cannot be denied insurance. But in the final analysis, from my perspective as a cardiologist practicing for 35 years, I think our healthcare system is one of the most overblown in terms of dollar cost. We spend more than 21% of the GDP on healthcare. We don't have the best healthcare delivery system. We may have the best healthcare system, but we don't have the best healthcare delivery system. Compared to Canada, England, and most of Europe, where they have the National Health Service, where the doctors spend negligible amount of time in the administrative work of doing the billing and collection. For example, in England, from the National Health Services, based on the National Health Service, when a primary doctor sees a patient, he makes his notes in the National Health Records, and at the end of the week, a check is deposited in his account. He doesn't have to fill out 33 items on every claim form and send it to the insurance company, hoping that he's going to get paid 3 months later. And similarly, the same pattern is followed in other countries like Canada, Germany, and most of Europe. They don't have to spend, but we spend over 50 to 60% of our revenue in administrative costs. That is insane. And you also have heard Donald Trump talk about the cost of drugs, which is just astronomical in this country. There's no reason why we should be spending $300 for one pill per month just to keep your blood thin. Think about it. I think I am all for one payer system. I'm all for drugs being negotiated by government or a private entity where you pay a single cost for a drug, whether you have insurance or not. And that's how it is in England. In England, for each drug for 1 month, you pay something like £7 and change. And I think that's the system we need in order to dramatically reduce the cost of healthcare and make healthcare affordable and also easily available to ordinary Americans when they need it. This is what I think is in the best interest of this country. And by doing so, we can dramatically cut the cost of healthcare by cutting down this 30 to 50% administrative cost, which should be eliminated so that we can focus on providing healthcare. We can focus on providing preventative healthcare, which in the long run may further reduce the cost of healthcare. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching. You have been watching Triple N Talk Show, and this is being broadcast usually every Wednesday between 6 and 7 p.m. And all our talk shows are live video streamed to YouTube and Google Plus. And talking about YouTube and Google Plus, please do subscribe to our YouTube and Google Plus channels, so we keep you abreast of the latest presentations we have coming up. Thank you again. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM. Bye.